5, 4, 3.
Hello, Blue Devils. Welcome back to World Changing 101. My name is Jamie Diaz, a senior here at Shortridge.
And I am Renaya Bannon, a junior here at Shortridge.
In honor of Constitutional Day, we welcome Chief Justice Rush, an American lawyer and judge in the Indiana Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Loretta Rush. I'm Chief Justice of Indiana, and I'm here on the second floor of Shortridge. I just spent some time this afternoon in 3 of your classes talking to your students about Constitution Day and the law. It's my pleasure to be here at Shortridge. I've driven by many times. I've admired the school, and it's great spending the afternoon here.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here today. We can go ahead and go straight to the questions. What challenges do you experience working on Indiana Supreme Court?
Well, we have in Indiana 1.1 million cases that get filed in our courts, and we have 3 levels of courts. We have the trial court, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. So the cases that come up to us, there's not easy answers on many of them. So they're challenging. So you have to do a lot of research to make sure you apply the law correctly. You have a lot of cases that involve a lot of violence. So there's probably a day I don't have a murder or a molest case that comes up. Death penalty cases come before the court. So the issues, I think, are challenging, but it's important that people know that when they go to the trial courts that they're going to get a fair result. And if they're not happy with that result, that they've got a second and a third place they can appeal a case up to it. And that's my court.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
What inspired you to become part of the Supreme Court?
Well, I'm the 108th Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court. So we've had our Supreme Court was set up by the original Indiana Constitution in 1816. And when 11 years ago, Indiana was one of 2 states in the country that didn't have a woman on the court, so a lot have applied. So that's kind of inspired me because I think there should be diversity everywhere, particularly with regard to people that are sitting in judgment and making decisions. So I applied, and I liked the law, and I trusted that that people are going to come before us, stand before our benches, have these tough issues come to us, and get a fair result. So loving the profession itself, having been a lawyer for about 30 years and a judge, I was a juvenile court judge, that inspired me to go on and apply for the Supreme Court. And was very surprised at the end of the day when I got selected. And then a year and a half after I was on the court, I was appointed to be its Chief Justice. So I'm in charge of the judicial branch in Indiana.
Yeah, congratulations for that. I really admire that. What do you enjoy about working in your field?
I like the law. I've seen people who, needed a strong voice with regard to their individual rights. You look at these bundle of rights that the Constitution provides, but if you don't have a person to represent you in court and a court to fairly protect those rights, what are they worth? So I think our democracy depends on people just not fighting it on the streets. If somebody wrongfully takes your property, if there's child support owed, if there's an issue of violence, accountability, it's just important that you have a place for disputes to be decided. And that's what courts do. It could be a small case over, a piece of property that's being disputed. It could be a big, we have billion-dollar cases with regard to businesses that need to be decided so the businesses can keep working. When people are involved in the court system, they need to get their cases tried quickly so they can get back to work. And that's important. We don't want people to miss court or miss school. When I was a juvenile court judge, I used to have truancy court at 7:30 in the morning. Guess why I had truancy court at 7:30 in the morning? So the kids wouldn't miss school to come to court. I also had night courts on Tuesday night because I thought it was important as children were coming through the system, as they were doing well, that parents and children didn't further get in more trouble by missing work or missing school to come to court. So I think it's really important that we look at people who use the court as our court customers and make it as open and accessible and transparent. Any of you can go on right now, can go on My Case Indiana. 55 million pages. Most of the cases are on there. I will tell you, I have 4 kids, and I found out about a case my child had that he did not tell me about by going on to My Case. It was a ticket.
Oh, wow. Is this a job that you see the upcoming generation becoming passionate about, although as students and children we tend to push politics aside?
I mean, I think the judiciary really isn't political. Like I was appointed to that. I mean, I think it's important that we try to stay out of politics. But I do think, I mean, I was just talking to some of the students, and do you like to make arguments? Do you like to defend rights? A law license is just a powerful weapon to right wrongs. It could be that you want to, work for a company with regard to contracts. The concept of contracts protecting people and for the orderly exchange of business is really important. So I think it is something passionate, because I think our democracy is dependent on the rule of law, that people have laws that protect them. Somebody can't come into your house and just take you away with no probable cause. They can't, put a GPS on your car. They can't take your cell phone and make you unlock it. They can't come and take all the contents. You have these rights, and you have a right to a jury trial. You have a right to an attorney if you get arrested. So all those rights need to be protected in courts for society to continue to thrive. And if you had no courts and people just fought it out, as in some countries, they don't have a strong court system, or they have a corrupt court system. I represent the United States, so I travel internationally. So I study other people's courts, and it's important that you have an accountable. One of the things we also do attorney discipline, and we do judicial discipline. We make sure everybody is following the laws and hold the people accountable that are not.
Yeah, I strongly agree on that. What is it like to be part of the Supreme Court as a woman? Are there any challenges you had to overcome and still are trying to overcome?
Well, I've been an attorney and a judge for 40 years, and I was the first woman partner in my law firm. I brought in women after me. When I was a trial court judge for a period of time, I was the only woman trial court judge in my courthouse, and now I'm the only woman on the Supreme Court. And I would like to have more diversity. I think it's very important. And we have different challenges. I have 4 children. I remember trying a case one time and looking at some baby spit up on my shoulder. So you have the same challenges. My kids would come in and watch me in court. I'd let them, if they were good, come and watch cases, and they go, "Oh, Mom, you're being so mean." So I think, being a mom and a parent, and now I just had my last one be done. I've been raising kids for 36 years, and I have 5 grandchildren. And it's just, I think there's challenges, but I think it's important that we be there. I had a little girl, she's in 4th grade. She sent me, I don't know her. Her mom sent me a picture of her in History Day. She dressed up in a black wig, black glasses, black robe. She went as the Chief Justice of Indiana. I feel like you have to see the robe to be the robe. You need to see people like you in these positions for you to think that you can do it. And I'm a strong believer in more diversity on the bench. And the bench is being a judge. We say somebody on the bench, that's a judge sitting up on the bench.
Oh, okay. Discuss the positive and challenging sides to supervising the entire judicial branch.
Well, a lot of judges, we have 600 judicial officers, and we have about 18,000 attorneys. So we've got, in 1.1 cases. So modernizing, saying we're going to go paperless, we're going to have electronic filing. People say, well, I like printing everything out. Well, for the environment, I think it's important that we electronically, so getting people to change and modernize. There's a lot of initiatives we're working on. We have a lot of people involved in the court system that are struggling with substance use disorder or mental health, making sure our judges are trained up on what are the best services to give these people. It's not just incarceration. I mean, people have to be held accountable, but we've got to deal with the people that are cycling in and out of the system. And we have our jails. I mean, 50 to 70% of people in jails have significant mental health or substance use disorders. So that's training them to understand that substance use disorder is a disease. It's treatable, that people are struggling with mental health that end up getting involved in the court system. We are the #1 referral source, the courts are, to get somebody substance use treatment other than self. That's a big responsibility. So we have problem-solving courts, veterans courts, mental health courts, juvenile drug courts. We're trying to keep people in their homes, out of detention or jails, because no one's coming out of detention and jails better. I mean, so it's a challenge to train them up, to kind of change that mindset that the courts have this role to help people get back on their feet given their challenges they have and not just revolving in and out of institution. Indiana is like, I think 1 out of 10 kids in Indiana have had an incarcerated parent. That's tough. That's tough on them and tough on their family. So when I look at interventions we could have done earlier to keep them out of that situation, I think that's important.
Yeah, I believe in that. Despite the challenges you face daily, what keeps you motivated and passionate about your work?
Well, today I'm all jazzed up about Shortridge. Love the students that I met within the classes. Just felt a lot of energy on that. And I see that next generation, you have such strong, a lot of you have great opinions and you've got a wonderful voice. And we need to hear it. And don't let anybody, try to cover it up. Because we're going to need you in these positions. So I enjoy the community outreach. I enjoy seeing progress. We problem-solving courts where people are able to stay in their communities, not be incarcerated. We've started family recovery courts, whereas a parent goes through substance abuse treatment and training, the child's able to stay with them as their mom or dad's going through recovery. We're having some really success with those programs. So I'm seeing a lot of innovations, a lot of judges getting out from behind their bench and working and convening on issues within their community to stop just sort of the revolving door of arrest, out, arrest, out, arrest, out. I have a lot of very passionate juvenile judges that are really looking at what is working for rehabilitating children or getting them back on path. So those are really inspiring things. So kind of that change agent, saying, okay, I'm in this position for this little period of time in history. I don't want to waste this time. I really want to see the ball moved on a number of endeavors to make our state stronger.
Yeah, that's really nice. Can you talk about some of the challenges that about balancing a career and family life?
Yeah, I think that's hard. I mean, I have I have 4 kids. I've been married 41 years. And it's you've got to deal with all of that. You want to make sure that you're emotionally present with your kids. My children, when I was a juvenile court judge, I used to have them come in. When they were after school, they'd walk over because the school was a couple of blocks away, and they'd watch some cases. But I think the balance is hard. You've got to be organized. You've got to be really organized, and you've got to prioritize. I always am working off a list on getting things. Sometimes I put things just on my list down so I can cross off. Okay, good, I got that done, even though I just did it half an hour ago. But I think that balance is hard. I think the fact I've got a really good husband and I've got some family support, and it's been something. My kids were pretty open. I mean, I told my children, if you get in trouble, you're going to get a little attention. And they go, oh, Mom, you think you're all that? They call me Nacho Supreme. So, I mean, that's they get a kick out of it. They think, I'm just Mom when I walked in that door every night, just Mom. But they also know that they had to get, I think they felt like they had to give some along the way. But what you do is you try to be emotionally present when you're with them so that you're listening to them and that you're present. And now my adult kids, we talk every day. So I've got a pretty good family. Been very fortunate.
Yeah, I'm glad you have that support. Considering you've been working in this field 11 plus years, have you ever thought about changing careers?
Well, I've been a judge for 25 years, even though I've changed the level that I'm a judge. No, I haven't. I've never looked and said, oh, I'll do that. Every now and then I look at what's going on nationally in politics and I thought, if I was president, what would I do? And I think I'd do some things different. But other than those thoughts that I'm hoping everybody has, right? You two think about it. If I was president, this is what I would do. But no, my job is pretty fulfilling as it is. So I'm sticking with it. People say, what do you want to do next? I go, well, I'll probably just die. This takes a good bit of my time.
Yeah, it's good to be passionate about something that you're working. Did you always know that this is what you wanted to do in life?
No, not at all. I was telling some of the students here at Shortridge earlier today, I sort of grew up in without a lot of opportunities. I've worked since I was 13. There wasn't like, okay, here's some money, you're going to get to go to college. I had to really work for financial aid. I was work study when I was in school. And I changed my major all the time. I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know, I had never met a lawyer or a judge. So it was second semester, my senior year, I got a degree in sociology, economics, government, and history. And I had started in engineering, and I went off and a lark, took the law boards and went to law school. So it was a last minute decision. I wish I would say I had thought about, always wanted to be it. I guess I never thought I could be it. When I went to college, there was not even a woman on the U.S. Supreme Court. There were not, you couldn't find women judges. Maybe there were some in some other states. So I didn't have this vision that I could because I didn't see anybody that looked like me in those positions. And then I have always, I like studying the cases. I like seeing how the law was applied and how it affected lives, because this is a job where your decision affects the life. A lot of people come to court. This is the most important issue going on before them. They need a decision to be able to move on. And I just really, I saw the importance of the position. And when I was a juvenile court judge, what you did really affected a child and a family's life on a daily basis. And that was important. I had, again, tens of thousands of hours of cases involving children, some pretty dire circumstances. And I saw the law as a powerful tool to protect them from further harm. But then I had to make sure that those that were trying to protect them weren't harming them more. So it was a big responsibility.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. What is your favorite pastime or hobby?
I have a lot. I mean, I have 5 grandchildren. I like spending time with my grandchildren. I like helping mold them into that. It's fun when you're a grandparent because you don't have to do all the disciplining. You're just the fun parent. You're the fun grandparent. I like, I'm teaching, I taught my granddaughters how to swim. I cook with them every weekend. I buy them aprons when I travel. And then sometimes we fake speak like we're French. We do different languages as we're in the kitchen cooking. I like to cook a lot. I like to be outside a lot. I like to read. I do a lot because I read so much for work. I'm a voracious Audible book reader. And the books are, I like to read history books. I like to read books about women. I like to, how they sort of traverse that. One of my favorite movies in the last year was Harriet Tubman. Just so powerful. What she got done. There's a book about a case in Indiana, and it's called 70 times 7. There's a 15-year-old who got the death penalty. And it's sort of her story. It's Paul Cooper and his case that came up through the court. I read that book recently, or listened to that book recently. So I do like reading. I like just being with my family and friends in church. I like cooking. Back when I had time, I used to do a lot of art type things. I made a lot of original quilts. So I think that balance of just getting your brain out of that work mode is really important. And I like just challenging myself with doing something new.
Yeah, talking about French, do you speak any by any chance?
My mom was Monique Emonier, and she was born in France. And her family didn't like my dad, so they disowned her, thus the tough upbringing. But my grandmother would only speak French to me, so I would be at a young age and go. I had to learn bridge and speak French. So I do it, but I really wish I spoke Spanish. So I've taken some Spanish classes as an adult, and I'm just not good at it. It's embarrassing. But yes, I think if any of you are taking Spanish right now, in fact, I went up and met with your Spanish teacher earlier today.
I was there.
Yeah. Speak Spanish. Sorry, the other whatever language the other teachers watching this, they're teaching German and French. You're important too, but speak Spanish.
What is one of the toughest cases you have had to rule on?
There's a lot of tough cases. Getting death penalty cases are really tough. We had a case, and there's a Netflix movie about this case, and it was the Elkhart 4, and it was 4 teenagers, all your ages, that were knocking on doors up in Elkhart, and they would want to find a home so that nobody was home. So they're knocking. If you're there, oh no, I'm looking for somebody. So they finally found a home. Nobody answered the door. They went in there. The owner came down and shot one of the boys, and he died. So the other 3 boys were tried and convicted as adults for murder with decades-long murder sentences. So that case came up to us it was under a rule called the felony murder rule. And even though they didn't have the intent, they did not have weapons, they were tried for murder. So that was a case where it came up to us, and you look at somebody looking at the rest of their lives being locked up, and they're actually their prison time in our court was reduced. They're out and they've been doing fine. I checked up on them recently. They've been doing, from what I learned, have been doing fine ever since. So those are tough cases. Seeing somebody young, like there's direct file, make a mistake and not think and be looking at 50, 60, 70, 100-year sentence. I just went out to Pendleton 2 weeks ago, and that's a tough prison. I had the DOC, some prisoners build a beautiful table for our conference room. I wanted to go out and thank them. And it's rough. I mean, that's not a place you want to go and stay. I mean, I think they're doing what they can there, but Department of Correction is not a good career goal.
Yeah. What project or case have you been part of you felt you really made positive change for our community?
I think statewide, there's a lot that we're doing with regard to looking at issues such as wealth base. Like, people shouldn't go to jail because they aren't able to pay their fees and fines. People shouldn't be in jail because they have a mental health issue that can be treated if we can divert them earlier. People with substance abuse disorder that we've diverted from the criminal justice system to keep them out and to have them be productive members. There's like, that is something, you've got the power to make that decision with that person standing in front of you. And then as Chief Justice, you're responsible for leading these reforms. Let's say that you had a case, and this used to be, let's say you finally got a family reunited. The mom got her kids back, and then she had a bad check. So she's in jail with a $250 bond. Should she be in jail on a $250 bond and her kids go back in the foster care system? We have to fix that to make that fair. So I think the ability to change systemically some things that aren't good about the system, that are not fair, are important. We're doing things in counties that people have transportation, and when you're involved with the court system, you got to get to court. So what are you doing with remote hearings? What can be done by that so people are able to keep their jobs? And the show up rates we have right now on some cases involving children with their parents, they can just go out on their phone and do their court matter quickly and not have to take off and get points at work. So I think system change has been the most fulfilling. I look at, again, I look at the people that use a court as court customers, and what are we doing to make it accessible, fair, and efficient for them? Because again, we're back to Constitution Day. That's what the Constitution says we need to be doing. So that charge is something we have to focus on. All courts shall be open, and justice shall be distributed fully, fairly, efficiently, period. And the prisoners that made the table for us put a plaque on it saying Article 1, Section 18 of the Indiana Constitution says justice shall be to help reform people, not based on vindication, punishment. And I thought, how telling is that? We sit around this table made with the hands of people that are looking at these big sentences that they built for us. Beautiful, reminding us that we're not there to just punish. We need to help get people back on their feet.
Yeah, that is really important. Why do you feel Constitution Day is important as a part of a student's education?
I think we take the constitutions for granted. When you travel and you look around the world at countries that don't have a constitution, that don't have those protections, we have more rights in our constitution than about any other country. And I think we sometimes take it for granted. But the power of that document for 250 years ago for the U.S. Constitution, 1816, and then 1851 for the Indiana Constitution, that they had the foresight to include these rights and privileges. I mean, it was our Constitution, when they first did the Constitution, women didn't have a right to vote. We didn't get that until later. It took a lot of work to get that done. People of color didn't have the right to vote. So the rights that are in there, they weren't originally in there, people fought to get them in there. So you can still amend. Every state has a different way of amending their constitution. But those protections are sort of behind the scenes on a daily basis. Somebody can't pull you over. You don't have a right. You don't go to jail without having a right to an attorney, without you have a right to be Mirandized before. You have the right to plead the fifth. Somebody can't take your property. You have a right to say what you want most of the time. And those protections are there. So I think the fact that we have the constitutions and those constitutions provide us with those protections make our country stronger. But we have to make sure that the courts are, again, the courts are there enforcing those constitutional protections. Because if not, then it's just on paper. So we've got to live them out. And we have challenges, or if government breakdown, if a leader takes on too much authority, the check is the court, that kind of that check and balance. So you don't have one branch of government that's way out there. The courts are the check for that.
Celia Jordan to the front office, ready to go. Celia Jordan to the front office, ready to go.
I love
Sorry
being in
about-
school. I love the announcements. No, it's all good.
Last question we have for you is, what is your favorite historical event about Indiana?
Well, I think the fact we finally got a woman on the Indiana Supreme Court might be a good one. But I think the story, Indiana's known as the crossroads of America, right? So we're here. I think we need a lead because that's our title, that we got that title, we're the crossroads. So, what you're doing here in Shortridge, and when you move on, I think that's an important fact. Remember that we don't have to just sit and follow. We should lead in certain respects. We should lead with regard to some of these justice initiatives that we're doing. And I like popcorn, and I think popcorn's got a big role in Indiana too. I like caramel corn better, but I like popcorn too.
Yeah, I love popcorn
I
too.
love kettle corn.
Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. We would like to thank Chief Justice Rush for joining our World Changing 101 and giving us this great experience today. You took time out of your busy schedule to speak to Shortridge students. We appreciate you for being here. Blue Devils, tune in to next week's World Changing 101 for more celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, ladies. Great
Thank you
questions.
so much for coming to Shortridge today.